Okay, we got a problem. Venture capital is one of the most beautiful industries to be a part of, and it is the most important industry in all of the world because of how big of a role it plays in spearheading the next level of innovation. But what if I told you that the very people that's supposed to be in charge of helping drive this innovation bus are really the ones holding it back? And it's starting to piss everybody off, including me. Start the intro. What's going on, everybody? My name is Q, aka the People's Planner, and welcome back to another episode of the People's Planner podcast, brought to you by the Clever Group. In this episode, we're going to dive deep into one of the biggest, I think, frustrations and issues that I've started to notice over the past months here in the venture capital space, and it's the risk averseness that a lot of venture capital, angel investors, just investors in general, have been playing and partaking in inside of this industry as far as funding, entrepreneurs and the next level of beautiful generational ideas to continue, the innovation growth. And to kind of kick this one off, like really diving into the whole concept and idea, let's just set the stage straight up, right? Venture capital, it's supposed to be really about taking big bets on a lot of big ideas, right? But here's the kicker, right? More and more venture capitalists, angel investors, and investors in general, private equity as well, they are moving into really playing it safe, right? And there are some reasons I think are behind that, but really I think I'm still kind of confused and really not understanding how that's supposed to work. But they're pouring money into startups, that look just like the ones that they've seen before, right? The ones that have succeeded in the past, and it's called pattern matching in some of a sense, and it's a really big threat to new ideas and new ways of thinking, just innovation in general, things that really challenge that status quo. And a lot of it is because I know for sure, understanding the side of, what the economy is like right now, especially in the United States, inflation and interest rates and all of that stuff. So a lot of investors are dialing back from, going and really, spearheading a lot of the fundraising that it's needed to stimulate those, brilliant ideas. Compared to what it was like in 2021, of course, when, everything and everybody just had money to spend and throw at the wall, right? So, but, what does this really mean, right? It really means that if you're a founder with a truly disruptive idea, something that really doesn't fit the mold, right? Something that truly challenges the status quo, then you're more than likely to get overlooked. And VCs are becoming more like bankers in somewhat of a sense, right? Looking for the more safer returns and, rather than taking a chance on the idea that can possibly really, change or revolutionize a specific sector or a specific industry or however it works, right? Since my people, it's how innovation is crushed, right? And confidence is broken and a lot of ideas just kind of get stale. And if we talk real world, like we all remember Blockbuster, right? And of course, right? But they had a chance to buy Netflix for about $50 million back in 2000s, and they passed on it. Why? Because of the risk averseness, right? Everybody gets so used to things that traditionally happen, and this is what went well for the last 30, 40 years, so we're just not going to reinvent the wheel. And it's not about reinventing the wheel. It's really how can you adapt and spice things up, because if you can kind of see that the world is changing and shifting towards something, and you kind of being so conservative on it, I think that kind of causes friction. That's a big problem here we're suffering with in Louisiana. I know that for sure, because oil and gas is our bread and butter, and that's really pretty much like top of the line when it comes down to anything in the state. And I think that has started to you started to see the level of the domino effect, right, trickle down from a lot of founders here not really reaping the benefits of all of the resources that's possible because of how much of a priority innovation is not, right? Like the whole entrepreneurship in Louisiana is not as big as it should be. And it's causing a lot of the young talent, the talent in general, just to uproot themselves and leave, right? And they wonder why we got a problem with that. And a lot of amazing people are uprooting and starting businesses everywhere else. Well, because we're so focused on being so conservative because of what's been working for us in the last 30 years versus seeing it as how can we add things to what's already been working, versus just excluding the entire sector. And I think that is causing a lot of, like I mentioned, founders to uproot and start their ideas in other places. Not just in Louisiana, but there's also a big prevalent thing in the South in general too, because of just how, Southern atmosphere, the Southern culture is. We really like to hound in on things that's been working. But when it comes down to really being innovative, it's you really kind of gotta you kind of gotta step out there, especially in this particular industry. Venture capital is a space where you kind of gotta understand the role that you're in, right? The world of venture capital is really about trying to find that next win, right? That next big thing that could possibly revolutionize things, not just from an impact standpoint, but also from profit standpoint. So I get it how investors look at that. And if going back to the Blockbuster analogy, nowadays you fast forward to today, Blockbuster is just another punchline, right? And Netflix is really a mogul and a giant. But the same thing happens every day in venture capital. Like founders with the next Netflix, next Uber, next Google, they're getting passed over because their ideas are seemingly too risky, right? And it's not just about the big names. I don't want to get that misconstrued, but small and innovative companies with ideas that could revolutionize whatever industries are just being left in the dust because they don't fit this traditional mold or pattern. Take for example, health tech startup, right? They might have a groundbreaking idea to personalize medicine in some way, whatever way, right? But something that could really change the way we treat diseases or anything like that. But because it doesn't look like, the last health tech unicorn, they struggle, right? They can probably struggle to find the right backers, right? This isn't just an isolated case, but it's systematic in a sense. And that's been my, biggest frustration with it, because I got the luxury of wearing both hats, right? So I'm able to wear the entrepreneur hat, and I'm also able to wear the investor hat. So knowing how both minds operate and think has been my secret sauce. Outside of what the economy has been like with inflation and things like that, I think one of the biggest, caveats to adding into that is it's just overwhelmingness that a lot of VC firms and investors have to get, because, deal flow is real. Like being able to either got too much deal flow or you don't have enough. And that's what the role I've been playing, really working with a lot of VC firms, is to be able to connect with them to help them kind of filter through that due diligence process and the deal flow process to source and see which companies can are beneficial to their thesis, but also, can really take things to the next level. Because I think one of the other big things is because there's not enough, I guess, effort put into that. I don't want to say effort, but it's not given enough grace in the due diligence and deal flow, screening process. And oftentimes a lot of good companies, don't check off a box because it doesn't fit certain algorithm or that that you might have, and the next thing this company you pass up on was the next Netflix if you would have just gave it the proper tools. So that's one thing as well, outside of possibly what the economy is like. But another thing is also something along the lines, just kind of looking at it in the sense of, like, a lot of times, investors in general, they want certain things to look certain ways. So you kind of gotta have some check boxes to check off, right? And it could be in a situation where when you're kind of going through the screening process and the deal flows, if certain areas are not checking the right boxes, then that becomes a big issue. But imagine, so the real impact here is what we're losing because of this risk aversion, I want to say. In the world, we're losing out on the kind of innovation that can possibly change lives, right? Change the way we think about things, change the way we do things, create new industries, solve problems we didn't even know we had, right? When VCs, who are supposed to be the leaders in this space, plays it a little too safe, we're not all just missing out on the impact of it, but they're also going to miss out on the financial returns that happen as well, because they're pretty much depriving the world of progress, is how I want to put it. But imagine if venture capitalists had been too risky to back companies like Tesla, Microsoft, Facebook, all of that, which had no guarantee of success, which at the time was just scrappy social media networks. We'll be living in a different place right now. We'll be living in a completely different world today. But here's the scary part. How many of today's Teslas and Facebooks are we losing because of this fear of risk? Think about that. But here's the thing, it doesn't have to be this way in certain sense. Venture capital doesn't have to be this silent killer. Venture capitalists doesn't have to be this silent killer when it comes down to innovation. I believe we can do better. And it starts with just a mindset shift. And that's why I pride myself on being able to, work with both sides, founders and investors, on a sense. Because on the founder side, you're really being able to help them and give them that active support, right? Which is another issue that kind of goes in, that I think goes into it, is a lot of traditional VC firms. The way traditional VCs work, I'm gonna invest in your idea, give you the money, give you the capital that you need, and then from there, I might just get a board seat or two. and then I'm really out your head, right? So it's pretty much more passive. And a lot of times I think now, especially, founders are looking for more, like, you gotta, it sucks to say, but we kind of gotta hold their hand in a sense, right? Because they don't really know how to kind of market or put their product in a certain position. So we're looking for things that are more than just capital, right? How can you also connect me with the right retailers, the right clients and customers, the right partners, and the right other investors that might be interested? How can you help us get our products to where it needs to be on an active standpoint to streamline that exit potential that you guys are looking for, but at the same time help just push the narrative and continue the innovation train? In a sense, I believe that helps de-risk investors, right? And that's why that's one of the another biggest things that I kind of add to the services that we provide here at the Clever Group is being able to work with VC firms in the sense of helping them kind of, like I mentioned, the due diligence and deal flow screening process, but also helping optimize their portfolio of founders. Because if somebody's actively helping them and guiding them and connecting them with the right tools, resources, and other folks that's necessary to continue to grow their business, in a sense, that's somebody that from an expert standpoint helping mold them and offer that business development to, I guess in a hindsight, help them get a faster exit, help them get a faster market push, help them get a faster growth in general, right? But if you're too risky, if you're too risk adverse, you kind of put the entire industry in somewhat of a frenzy because of just the lack of pushing things. And like I mentioned, it's like that really big here in Louisiana because it's very conservative in certain senses. It's like there's money here, and I think I've pissed a lot of folks off before, and I've been screaming this at the top of my lungs. It's not the availability of resources that we have. It's the awareness of them, right? There's a lot of money. There's a lot of connections, networks, a lot of opportunity here in Louisiana. The issue is most of us don't know where to go. And it's if we do know where to go, there are certain people that just won't give they won't open the gates, right? There's a lot of gatekeeping going on in certain situations, which I think hinders so much potential. And I think there's a push for change in that space because, this part of it, I think, is necessary in a state like Louisiana that it has access to so much, right? There's so much raw material, raw ideas, and raw everything, especially here in the Southern culture in general. Like just out here in the South, the culture here, the talent here is always, it's like, the SEC in sports, for example, it just means more down here. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't have to be this way. Like I mentioned, it doesn't have to be the silent killer. It just really starts with the mindset shift. And instead of looking for the next Uber, you should be asking, like, what's the next idea? And can this idea that's being pitched to you really make an impact on the game, really change something? Is it really bold enough to make that big difference and big impact alongside the profitability, right? So those are some things really to think about. And I challenge a lot of venture capitalists, VCs, venture capitalists, to do that, right? And for all of the VCs, all of my VCs that's listening now, if you've seen me email you and try to reach out to you, it's probably because I think I see this as an impact that definitely, we can provide some value and help kind of streamline some of the processes. Because if you're serious about innovation, you need to start taking these risks again, right? And having some support, somebody to help kind of de-risk your investors, your LPs, things like that. I think that can go a long way. Because I know throughout the entire process, right, you have LPs to be transparent with, you have, LPs to keep up with and to really make them happy. And you got a portfolio, you got to keep balanced. You got, reputations on the line. Of course, finances is on the line, things like that. So all of those things, I get it. But I do think that this disconnect is, this is an industry we all understand how risky it could be. And we got to be able to see the mindset. We got to be able to change the mindset so that way we can start seeing the glass half full more than it just being, glass half empty, right? And I know from an investor standpoint, I completely understand, a lot of investors are looking for a reason to say no. And I get that. And I think that's a big deal because I would look at it like that. But if you go into any conversation with no hat on all the time, with your no hat on, like the idea of looking outside and actually trying to find beauty inside of this becomes a little bit more daunting because you're already ready to say no at any split second. So, and I get it. A lot of it comes down to the deal flow and amount of applications you got. You want to sort through as much as you can. But I'm implore you and encourage you to get better at that process, at that part of it. At least that's a way to kind of solve that. Get better at that. Outsource, hire somebody, hire a firm like ours to be able to kind of help you with that. But like just being able to get back to taking those risks and biting that bullet, because a lot of these great ideas need the funding. Now, on the founder side, right, I challenge my founders, my entrepreneurs, I challenge all of y'all to really reframe you guys' mindset as well. Like, I'm big on the meet people where they at syndrome, right? So if you are in the healthcare tech, for example, and being able to structure your pitch deck, or whoever you're pitching to, whatever you have as a deck, being able to structure that towards them and not towards a restaurant investor is going to go a long ways, right? You want to be able to meet people where they at, people who are normally used to investing in a specific sector that you're in versus somebody that's not, right? You want to give yourself the best opportunity to even get a conversation, let alone a check getting written in general, right? So, just being able to kind of look from that standpoint and look beyond the surface, right? Beyond the patterns for the VCs, and just see the potential and ideas that are different, that are challenging, and that are daring, right? That's where a lot of the impact and the future lies, if, so to speak. But I do look at it and say, don't give up for my founders, right? Don't give up, if you don't fit the mold. That's a good thing in a sense. Being able to see yourself, like I mentioned, see things as a glass half full versus a glass half empty, and continue to look at it as an opportunity for you to continue to master your craft, master your pitch, master your market, and everything that it pertains to getting yourself inside the right folks. I think that's in front of the right folks. I think it'll take you a long way, because I think it's going to pick back up. And I think going into not only the fourth quarter of 2024, but just going into 2025 in general on forward, I do think the venture capital space is about to really be good for a lot of people, and a lot of change is about to happen. There's a lot of great ideas, man. So if you're not in the VC space, and you want to get into it, man, feel free to reach out to me, but also do your research. And if you're somebody who just want to always be on the outside, don't really want to get involved, I encourage you to still kind of at least understand what's going on and how beautiful of an environment it is to be able to work with the groundbreaking ideas, man, that can take the world to a new place, because you start addressing problems, like I mentioned, that we don't even know we have. But keep pushing, keep pitching, and really master yourself, master on both sides. But I do think this is a really big challenge and problem that we need to address, right? Because the risk adverseness, the conservatism is really, it can really cripple a lot. It can really put everything at a standstill. And I'm big on, understanding both sides, right? From an investor standpoint, I get it, man, because we want to make sure we maximize profit, also impact. We want to make sure those things are really, at the forefront. We're not trying to, you know what I mean? But for a founder standpoint, it's the same thing. We're really looking to close these things, because there's no reason there should be deals sitting on the table for months, and there's a very gruesome due diligence process we got to go through, and, we need funding. If not, we're going to really just be out. There's going to be another idea lost, another opportunity gone, and things like that. So I definitely think, being able to find a way, a middle ground, because I think the disconnect is there's no middle ground to finding, not only just finding the right investors from a founder standpoint, but for investors to be able to get an efficient process to where not only are they more comfortable in a sense when it comes down to the risk, but also see the value and the potential of the founders, versus looking at it just as a thing where it's like, hey, are you like the last company, the last unicorn that existed? You know what I'm saying? So I definitely think that this is something we all should, if you're in this space, we all should put our thinking caps on. But as I kind of continue to reach out to different VC firms, man, that's the biggest offering, is being able to provide that value to help streamline some of that, because I think there's a need for a lot of the founders, to continue to grow. There's a lot of great ideas. I've met a lot of great founders with a lot of, it's so amazing, right? And I think it's something we just got to take advantage of before, like, a lot of the confidence gets killed, right? A lot of the confidence get crushed in certain sense. But anyway, to wrap everything up, we're at a crossroads here with VCs, but if you continue to play it safe, and sticking to the same old patterns, you're gonna drive the next wave of innovation in a dirt, if I want to be honest with you. So the choice is really up to us, and the stakes couldn't be higher, because I think there's a lot of opening and opportunity that's about to come forward. But once again, in the meantime, I appreciate you guys for tuning into this episode. I enjoy being back here and sharing this stuff, especially in this space here. as it pertains to working with business owners and entrepreneurs, because it's something that I see it, right? And I can feel it. But if that didn't get you fired up, man, if it did get you fired up, man, please feel free to, like, share, subscribe, comment. If you're watching this as a founder, share this with your investors. If, a VC firm, share this with your colleagues, man. I think it's something we can all get behind and push, especially here in Louisiana, because I don't know what the hell we're doing out here in Louisiana. I think we're just making it hard for everybody for no apparent reason. And I can understand why people just take their business and go somewhere else, because if we're going to continue to be like this, it's going to be madness. But just continue this conversation, man. Let's get this going and really continue to push and drive this innovation bus. But once again, man, thank you guys for tuning in to another episode. And you all know how the motto goes, man. Always be clever. I'm out.